What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 128 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and guys, we're finally doing it. We are covering Keeneland for a Saturday, which is going to be April 19th of 2025. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. Of course, as you guys all know, we're going to go through some quick things first, and then we will get right into the handicapping. So, of course, as you can see scrolling down the bottom of the screen, bettinandboozin@gmail.com. Please email me with any questions, comments, or concerns you have regarding the show. Of course, please go down below the video player and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you guys are liking the content that you guys see, because not only does it show us that you guys enjoy what you guys are seeing on the channel, but also it pushes these podcasts out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you guys. Every intermittent Mondays here, every single week on the HHH Racing Podcast, we have Horsin around, and that actually starts with this Monday again with the Kentucky Derby Fantasy Draft. A bunch of us co-hosts, of course, Ryan, Noah, Jackson, Charlie, Patrick, Howard, Pete, Paul, we're all going to be live and talking the fantasy draft that for our podcast for the Derby. I believe we did it behind closed doors yesterday, but we're going to make it public this time. And of course, you should join in because you might get a chance to win a free bet for the Derby. So join in this Monday, which will be April 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully you can win a little something for yourself. But Mondays, 8 p.m. Horsin around. Tuesdays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Pacific Horseplayers with Noah, Ryan, and Jackson. This week they covered Santa Anita Saturday. So if you guys are interested in that after this podcast, go head on over there. Of course, every single Wednesday here at 8 p.m. Eastern with Bettin N Boozin, and every single Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with Picks and Ponies with Howard, Pete, and Paul. So please join us for every single podcast here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Of course, you can still watch them as a replay at any time. They're also fully available in audio form, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. So if you're more of an audio listener, please go rate, review, and subscribe over on those platforms. TikTok and Instagram at Bettin N Boozin Podcast. I've been posting daily for Keeneland with my picks and horses to play throughout the day. Had almost two firsts today. Had a first and a second today. So hopefully you guys are following along. Again, at Bettin N Boozin Podcast over on TikTok and Instagram. Power Picks, guys, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Still going super strong and couldn't recommend it enough. Price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you'd be successful on any given Saturday here at the HHH Racing Podcast. We have you covered with the Power Picks. Again, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is also in the description as well, along with our specialty Power Picks, Team HHH, meet specific Power Picks. Anything you want, go over to hhhracingpodcast.com for those, or if you just want to learn more about the podcast. Guys, again, we are covering a fantastic card at my favorite track, Keeneland Racecourse. For those that don't know, I'm going to bring the guys on the screen and we'll talk a little bit about our last weekend here as we all went to Keeneland. Some of the people on the screen for the first time. So, of course, we'll get everyone's thoughts on the weekend, and then we'll get right into the handicapping. So, first, from the East Coast of New Jersey, we're bringing Patrick Kunsel in, of course, and from the Ohio State University, Charlie Freeman. Gentlemen, what's going on? Charlie, I'll let you go first because I want to hear about how your first time at Keeneland was and what the experience was like for you.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. Again, kind of like going to the Breeders' Cup for the first time was another last minute. Can anybody, make it work to include me? And yeah, it was everything I could imagine. Then some. I'd say things that shocked me, but in a good way, was how good of a job they do at making the track feel small. Like we talked about it when I first got there, even though we were, in the special rooms at the top, there is really no top part of the track where you're far away from everything. You're still right in the action, right by general admission. The views are fantastic. Love that they don't have any big trees blocking the whole track, which I don't know why other tracks can't go with that. And it really is just a special place. You can I don't know how else to describe it, but I mean, even just when you're walking in the parking lot up to everything, it doesn't compare to any track I've been to. So from the experience itself, it was everything I could have imagined and then some, and glad to check it off the list. And then, yeah, in terms of the actual track success, I don't know if we're going to talk about that later or not, but I would say
talk about it.
I'd say it was a pretty good first time at, Keeneland. I think that is definitely the biggest voucher I've ever seen in my life for me personally. Definitely the biggest weekend I've ever had. Hitting the turf pick 3 both days. Granted, one of the days wasn't for much. Nearly hitting the pick 5 and actually for once correctly hedging instead of doubling and tripling down like an idiot worked out nicely. Quite honestly, the only thing that didn't go well on the weekend was Prater, but we don't have to talk about that. I'd rather focus on the positives. But outside of that, I mean, going on the turf course with you after hitting the turf pick 3 was incredible as well. The people was great to get everybody together. It was just an incredible experience.
Yeah, I mean,
that's camera panning around.
I know, it's funny. He's letting his dog out. I could see it, but he's got the moving camera, so it moves everywhere with him.
High-level operation there.
Dude, he's got it going himself. But no, Charlie, I mean, you were up like $2,000. Like, I don't know if you want to talk about it, like the specific dollar amounts, but man, I mean, you hit everything on Saturday, which was obviously amazing. Pat, you brought your lovely girlfriend Meg, of course, as we like to call her, Mojito Meg around these parts. Like I said, it was a fantastic time, and you guys that were there together for, I believe, Meg's first time to Keeneland as well.
Yeah, it was her first time. She loved it, and as Charlie hit on, looking out at the track and not having any trees or any, things block, the track itself. She noticed right away how you just look out and you see those green fields and how beautiful that was. So yeah, it was a great time. She's feeling better now, as there was a health update needed in the chat, and we're all good. I don't know how we're all feeling after the week after Keeneland. I mean, it is a little bit of a slugfest trying to get through the week, but we're making it through, and this show is something that will get us moving here.
Get us moving, because we're going more Keeneland, ladies and gentlemen. And trust me, we can never have enough Keeneland in the life. So we won't take up anyone's time, much more time. But I just wanted to make sure that we at least got what we wanted to talk about with Keeneland last week. And of course, Emma and I were out there as well. Emma loves that track; she has a blast, and with her best friend Jim Goodman, they them two always have a blast. But guys, let's get right into it here. The late pick 5 is going to start in race number 7. But of course, before that, let's get right into the chat. Katie, of course, is here. Tom Espinoza is here. Patrick Littledew is here. I don't recognize that name, so welcome in, Patrick. Thanks so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. Our Stephanie is here. Ed Burke is here. Terry Frank is here. My mom is here. What's up, Mom? Thanks so much for joining the show. Matt Miller, of course, is here. Paul Conlon. Anyone joining me at Keeneland this Saturday? Unfortunately, Paul, I tell you what, I'm just going to start spending a month or 2 months down in Lexington throughout the year, because every time I leave, it just seems like, I just can't see. I just always want to go back. Of course, the boss is here, and TC Markham is here as well. TC, thanks so much for joining the show. I haven't seen you in a while. Keeneland is absolutely beautiful. That is true. Guys, let's move right into the handicapping here. Race number 7, like I said, starts off the late pick 5 that we're going to talk about today at Keeneland for Saturday. And it's an allowance race for my favorite, everyone that knows me, my favorite type of configuration, the 5.5 furlong turf sprint with 12 different horses. But of course, that brings on fantastic betting opportunities as I share our screen right now. And we are covering Keeneland Saturday, but we do have morning lines. Another reason why Keeneland is what is the best track around. The morning line favorite is going to be a pretty lukewarm one, of course. The number 4. People that have watched this podcast before know I have a very big affinity to this horse. Band on a Run. Frankie Dettori takes over the mount now for Christophe Clement at 7-2. Second choice, the number 7, Pipsy for Joel Rosario and Will Walden at 9-2. And third choice, the number 10, Be My Sunshine, Brian Hernandez, Safi Joseph, 5-1. Not often you see that combination, I'll tell you that much. But either way, Charlie, my friend, I like that from you, my king. Cloud Walker going on top, 6-1, morning line with Brendan Walsh. Patrick, you are going with the aforementioned favorite, Band on a Run. So I will let you start first. What did you like most about him in this sequence?
Yeah, I thought...
Or her, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'll drink for that.
It's all right. We're starting them early. Nothing like having a drink too early here. I thought last out, Band on a Run was 8-1 that day. Was very much in an early pace, had to deal with an early pace in that Captiva Island. at Gulfstream. And I think when, Christophe Clement ships these horses, especially in the turf sprint, because last weekend he had 2 in there that we got to see on Sunday. I think, they're well meant in here. And I think this one is due for a big spot. Has increasingly started to get better with each start since getting in the barn. And you would think is going to be more forwardly placed in here, which I would prefer, especially on this Keeneland turf course, as it's been favorable to speed. As that turf sprint, I'm blanking on the name of the stake that we watched on Giants Causeway.
Giants Causeway, yeah.
That was a throwdown, and it had to deal with horses on the front end. I think we could see the same thing in here.
Yeah, the turf. It's been interesting because Keeneland started out speed favoring dirt wise, then it's become a lot more fair over the last couple weeks now, which it seems like Keeneland just started. Turf's been playing kind of fair, but when we were there, it did seem to favor a little bit towards the front. I kind of chalked that up to just the better horses, especially in the Giants Causeway. The better horses were just in front. So it'll be interesting to see how it continues to play throughout the week. But I had this horse at 12-1. I had this horse at 8-1. Obviously, both ways underneath and on top. Very big affinity for this horse, Charlie. And of course, she can get into the money. That last race was very big on the number side. Just a matter of when I show the time form here is if she's going to get the pace set up or lack thereof to what she needs to win.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, I feel like at most tracks, I tend to have a good read on these Gulfstream horses. That being said, admittedly at Keeneland, it's been really tough to figure them out because I think we could all agree, putting any bias aside, they've been really hit or miss. Like they either completely live up to the hype, like She's So Spicy. I'm blanking on what Ramsey Pond when we first got there. But then there's also races where they take money and then completely flame out and are nowhere. I can't really figure it out what this for. And for me, it's been a horse at Gulfstream that I've constantly played against. So I'm personally going to use that one as a beatable favorite underlay. But I think everything Pat said makes a ton of sense. I'm just trying to put my view from the horse at Gulfstream as well as just how Gulfstream's done to be, proceed with caution. Now moving into Cloudwalker, this is a horse where it's the opposite. This is a horse that has, made me good money. I've actually been on her for, I believe, two of her wins, which have worked out really nice for me, including her win at Keeneland where she got up for a neck, was a big time winner for me in that race. But putting that aside, I like that she takes to the course. Now, admittedly, she also is kind of one of those where she either gets it done or she struggles to get into the money or maybe just gets up in time for third. The big thing for her is she definitely needs some setup and definitely needs every bit of that 5.5. Obviously, last time they tried her on Tapeta for this first time, they tried to stretch her out to 6. Earlier in September, they tried stretching her out to a mile. I really do think this 5.5 to 6 is where she belongs, but I think it's clear on the turf. Obviously, having 2 wins out of 3 in Keeneland and 1/3 is nothing to be upset about. And obviously, Brendan Walsh, has already gotten off to a really nice start to the meet. I think makes a ton of sense. I think just the question is can she sit close enough? But in a race like this, kind of you and I don't love these kinds of races, so I'd like to at least get somewhat of a reasonable price.
Yes, I have adopted the religion of losing as much as race reboot, losing as little money in these races as possible. And Cloudwalker is one of those that she really loves Keeneland, and it's Keeneland is a very, very deep turf course, very long, luscious grass. It's nothing like something like Gulfstream or anything like that. So horses either take to it or they really don't. And obviously Cloudwalker has done exactly that. Depends on what type of setup she's going to get, as Charlie mentioned. I don't think she necessarily has to be 9th in this race or 10th. She easily could be. I would love for her to sit in the middle, somewhere towards the inside as she's drawn the 3, tip out at the top of the stretch and just run with her big run that she always does. Just a matter of she's definitely good enough to win in this field. But Charlie mentioned it's just a matter of does she put it together on the right day. Very lukewarm choice for me. However, 6-1 price probably will get that and definitely at least good enough to take a shot, in my opinion. Guys, I want to go to Pipsy, excuse me. I was about to say Tipsy. Talking Tipsy, of course, old Crownsway horse that I just have on the mind, I guess. Pipsy is a horse we have everywhere, Patrick. It's another one that should be close to the front. If she does get the setup of not a whole lot of pace with her, she easily can win for sure. But it's kind of tough for her to see where she's going to sit because she's been at the back, she's won at the back, and she's the other time she's been towards the front and really hasn't gone her way. So obviously a drop in competition here off the layoff, but still going to be an interesting see where she sits early.
Yeah, it is. And you got to wonder how the layoff will affect Pipsy in here. I think in the Franklin, she ran okay considering, her odds. She was in the mix early and just kind of faded a little bit late. But her numbers, her time form fits right in here. So if she's ready to go, she'll be right there. I just these are all about the trips, as you guys know.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to find that horse that's going to get the right trip. But this is a very fun race to start the late pick 5, as they usually are at Keeneland.
They always are, and they never disappoint. Charlie, like I said, this is another one. Won at Keeneland last time, lost to Futures Now, who we watched win the Giant Causeway. For some of us good, some of us not so good. I'll raise my hand on that one. But like I said, she has to find a good spot in order to win this race. I just don't see necessarily a winning trip for her in here, unless she somehow just outbreaks everyone and gets clear. Or apparently, as she sits dead last and they go super fast. Like, I just don't see a winning trip for her in this race.
Yeah, I'll actually push back a little, because when I was looking over this, especially now, with her form getting flattered a little bit more with Futures Now coming out of that race and running well as Pandora's Gift running out of that race. And again, just the, drop in class, the figures fitting, the fact that she's lightly raced in the U.S. as well. I don't think she needs the lead by any means. I just think, last time, 21-1 and probably overmatched, just had to send like hell. But like you mentioned, they've had a run at a mile. They've had a run at 6.5 at Kentucky Downs, which plays much further. She closed like crazy at New York at 6 flat. I think realistically, if they can get her in a good stalking trip, I would argue that she has more natural speed. Well, not argue. She has more natural speed than the 3, but I also think she has shown enough late ability that if Rosario can navigate the right trip, she'll be in the right spot. And I also wouldn't be surprised based off of who she's faced if she goes off as the favorite.
I also don't know, though, if the distance is necessarily her friend. The shorter, because she didn't run that good at 5.5. I mean, I
don't know what she really wants. I think
right.
they're trying to figure that out too. I think that's part of it off this layoff, is trying to see because I think someone said in the chat as well, she might be more meant for 6 or 6.5 or 7 than this. But I just have a feeling off a layoff, they're just trying to see if 5.5 is what she wants, and then they'll adjust. So I do think these races are always just impossible. I think there's a lot of questions on all these horses.
I mean, like, Be My Sunshine for Safi makes a ton of sense. Like I said, I think I've ever seen Brian Hernandez ride for Safi, and obviously that would concur. Those stats would concur with me, though. I'm glad you have this horse in there, Patrick, because this is a horse that I've been on in the past and have really liked. Bling, the number 11 horse. Of course, tough post from the outside, especially in these 5.5 furlong races, but glad to see Junior back aboard. He rode his first horse back today at Keeneland. So looks to sit a middling trip here. And definitely, if she runs back to her races from before, she could definitely be in the money.
Yeah, I do. I think so. And I think Vicky Oliver, has kind of treated this horse well and well meant, to be honest, sending her into some tough spots in here. Outside draw, Kyle, like you said, is going to be tough. But she's going to have to get over pretty early and hopefully can kind of find a way over. And I think in here, this horse should be a decent price. So, I'm hoping, Band on a Run. Obviously, she might go off as the favorite and kind of cheaped out there. But I think in this spot, you can make a case for about 5 or 6.
Yeah, I agree. But even if she is going to be the favorite, I don't think she's going to be anywhere near. So, I mean, probably 3-1, 7-2 at the lowest. This is just a very good betting race. And, of course, a very good one, especially if you have an opinion to start off the late pick 5. I'm going 3-4-7. Charlie's going 3-7-4. Pat's going 4-11-7. Guys, moving on to race number 8 here, second leg of the late pick 5. It's allowance optional 80,000. Going long on the dirt, going a mile and an eighth with a field of 10. But there is a very heavy favorite in here, and in my opinion, a very talented one at that. We are all going with the number 5, just a touch. Florent Giroux, Brad Cox. I believe this will be second time back, coming back. The first race off the layoff was just absolutely unbelievably impressive. 6-5 on the morning line. Second choice, the number 9, Skinner, Jose Ortiz, Cherie DeVoe at 3-1, Cherie for 3, and Gould's Gold, your third choice, Brian Hernandez, Kenny McPeak at 6-1. So we all excited, Charlie. We're all going with just a touch. As you can see from the time form has him loose in here. And if he has this type of trip, it's going to be very, very tough to beat him.
Yeah, no, I mean, quite honestly, I think whether he could get loose on the lead or not, he just lays over this field. I don't think there's too much, quite honestly, to touch on. I just think the reality is he was an incredibly talented horse. Obviously, on the Derby Trail, received a ton of hype. I know got some comparisons to, Mage in terms of being the, younger, inexperienced horse with only a few starts that was running against the best of the best and was right there. And then, the Derby was supposed to be his big moment and, took action at, 11-1 and change was one of the main choices. Obviously, just never really got into it in that race. Then obviously came off that layoff and ran a disappointing second, and then had another big layoff and then, got loose on reasonable fractions and won for fun. And again, I just think the setup is there. I just don't really see anybody with similar numbers. I think realistically, as you move from the turf sprint we just covered, that's a great betting race and wide open and horizontally, you might go deep with quite a few horses. I think not to be creative or make a bold statement, but this is the most likely winner of the sequence and a very popular single, most likely.
Yeah, and that's the difference, right? He's going to be a very popular single. So if you can beat this horse in some type of horizontal,
Agreed.
I mean, it increases exponentially what you're going to get out of it. Patrick, the one thing I will say, though, about just a touch in this race, and I would feel like it's at least worth mentioning, this seems like a very soft spot to put him in after a type of race like he had last time. Granted, ran the Derby Trail, then ran in the Iowa Derby, ran well, just got second. Then they put him in an N1X. You figure, okay, comeback race, because he's still qualified for the N1X, so might as well throw him in there. But now you go into an optional 80 N2X. It just seems like a very, obviously the next logical spot, but you feel like a horse like this, you would want to see entered, somewhere into a nice stakes race. But now, he shows back up in a pretty, in terms of what he should, like what his hype was around, a pretty easy spot.
Yeah, I agree. You do have to question the spot a little bit, but I think it's just Cox, being smart with this horse and just trying to, ease him back into it. Because obviously this horse is well meant and has been throughout his career. As we did maybe pick him in our Derby pool that we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That killed us, to be fair, because people were joking with us about taking the Japanese horses last year. They ran third and fifth, and this horse ran 20th. So that didn't help us.
I got to be honest, when I handicapped this race, the first thing I saw was that Kentucky Derby, and all I could think of was our pick in that.
That was so terrible.
I think Florent could be, he could be tactical here, and this horse could just get to the lead and kind of find his way. I do think, though, the 9 Skinner is very interesting because the horse has run figures that do seem to match what Just a Touch has been. Now, obviously, there's going to have to be a little bit better of a performance in here. The Razorback was not that good, to be quite blunt about it. But Cherie DeVoe obviously is, known to be pretty good. So I think Skinner could be the one to get into the exacta, and it could be a pretty chalky one. But I think Skinner is the obvious second choice.
Yeah, and really in that race, Skinner was one of the only ones making up ground late, realistically, in that Razorback. So I guess that's something. Look, you guys know me and Cherie. I tried every time to make a case for this horse. I loved him in the Louisiana Derby, ran fine off the layoff. I thought it was going to run a little bit better and was absolutely hammered at the windows. Came back second time in the Razorback. I was like, okay, cool. Second time off the layoff. This horse improves off that 95. This horse can definitely win. Runs fifth. And I'm like, dude, I was hoping for this horse to come back in a spot like this. And then he runs again. Then he runs up against Just a Touch. I think 5-9 is a very, very, look, it's nothing creative at all, but you just hammer the 5-9 exacta. I feel like that's very logical in here. But I try every time to make a case for this horse, but I couldn't do it today, especially with the 5. in the race. Gold's Gold is a horse I have in third. Charlie, you have as well. Probably racing against a little bit, slightly less, and definitely and coming off a layoff as well. That Kenny McPeek's not the best about coming off of these types of layoffs, but definitely has numbers to where you need to respect him at least underneath.
Yeah, definitely has shown flashes, especially at this distance, which is another positive. Obviously, and it's also working well. Obviously, the big question actually is going to be, the layoff, as we haven't seen this horse since August at Parks. But I just think trip-wise, and I'll let you talk on the 8 a little more before I move into the 6, but I just think setup-wise for this 8 and 6, it could work out nicely. As you showed, Just a Touch is probably going to be pretty loose. I don't think the fractions will be that crazy, so I could easily see, the 6 and 8 just sitting a few lengths off of Just a Touch and then just turn for home and one of them get up. And I'll just push back a little bit on Skinner. Don't get me wrong. I think everything you said, Kyle, makes sense. I know you love Cherie. My main concern is for Skinner in this race is for me to play against, because I would want to create more value with Just a Touch, and I agree with you. I think everybody will play 5-9. The numbers are there. The problem is I don't see the pace set up at all for Skinner. I could easily see there be blue figures, and you can see in the past, like his last race, when they don't go that fast, it can lead to some trouble. So for me personally, I'd rather look for a little more of a price in a horse like the 6 or 8 that'll be sitting closer and have to jump on Skinner. That was just my little pushback. And then briefly on the 6, and if Pat, you want to add on it, because I think you also have Stretch Ride. I just think this one could honestly get a dream trip. And I think you could even make an argument, even if the ability's not there, that this could be the one that has the best chance to upset the 5, simply because I just think, again, the setup is there. This one will be sitting close, has, obviously been running some optional claimers, but against some pretty nice horses if you go through the list. And I just think could be sitting right behind Just a Touch and at least try to give him a run for his money. I just don't think he's good enough to go by.
Yeah, I'll echo everything you say. And Del Romans has had some pretty live mounts at longer odds so far this meet. So I do think that 6 could fit the try in there, as I do think Skinner's going to be running second. But this is a good one because, Just a Touch is going to be this is a separator race, I should say. Just a Touch is going to be pretty heavily bought into in this race.
Yeah, and obviously, as we all agree, probably with good reason, but it's the matter of, you're right, where TC Markham says that he's going 5-10, the 10 being passing game as a horse coming over for Peter Urton. That one's going to have to definitely improve. But if you can get a horse like Skinner in this race, if he wins and beats Just a Touch is going to be a heavily singled horse in horizontals, doubles, every single way. And if you can beat him, your payouts will grow exponentially, but the whole race does run through him. I'm going 5-9-8. Charlie's going 5-6-8. Pat's going 5-9-6. Guys, moving into the co-feature of the sequence, it's the Grade 2 Elkhorn Stakes, going 1.5 miles on the Keeneland turf course. Field of 12 with 1 also eligible to be included in there. And this draws another heavy favorite, the number 6, Limited Liability. Frankie Dettori, Shug McGahee. Good to see Frankie getting some live mounts on the day. And as I switch over the picks right now, only Charlie ends up with Limited Liability on top. Patrick's going with a 15-1 horse in here. Anglophile, I think that's a horse Pat has had in the past. Joel Rosario, Brian Lynch at 15-1. And I'm back to the well, ladies and gentlemen. Rebel Red, Jose Ortiz, Cherie DeVoe at 8-1. Charlie, you have the more young favorite. I'll let you go first. Of course, the whole race, like I mentioned, runs through Just a Touch in the last race. The whole race runs through Limited Liability here. So he's shown that he's every single bit of legit.
Yeah, I thought I was really showing some Cherie DeVoe love by having her horses second and third, but you took it another level. Not that I should be surprised going first and second. Yeah, Limited Liability is a horse who frustrated a lot of us because I know we were all watching, obviously, Gulfstream on that day. And, Dettori went with, shall we say, an interesting ride last time out in Limited Liability, deciding to press a long shot in that race and essentially ruining any chance he had at winning. Still fought hard and lost by only a neck. I think was a frustrating one because I do think the reality is if Dettori had just taken back a little bit and happily set off, would have gone by and won for fun, in my opinion. And I think if you see that, I'm hoping that people don't realize they're in trouble and think, he was a short price who couldn't get it done last time and let that value float up. But I have a feeling that people will know what happened and this one will get hammered. Look, these races are always a crapshoot and tough. We talk about how we don't like turf sprints. I'm not the biggest fan of turf marathons personally. That being said, I think limited liability has a ton of great numbers that fit in this spot, is clearly the class of the field. And I think if Dettori just rides a little more reasonable and less crazy and just lets the race come to him, and look, if they let him get an easy lead, fine. But if not, if he just sits and just understands what he has, I think limited liability could be pretty tough here.
I mean, Patrick, I completely agree with everything Charlie said. I think we were all together when limited liability ran that last race. We were like, what the hell is going on? But look, he's very good. The National Gold Club was obviously very good. Ran well in the Red Smith too, behind Integration, who would probably win this race for fun and definitely be bet like it. Makes a ton of sense. It's just a matter of, can Frankie actually put him in a good spot this time?
Yeah, and the odds are there is no way I could take this horse
at 8-5.
At 8-5, there is no chance. Now, obviously, like you pointed out, this horse fits right in, and it probably is a deserving favorite, just not that number. But that's what kind of leads me into why I like Anglophile. Last out, that trip just was not very good. You guys can talk about how the jockey that was on the horse and is on the horse on Saturday. But I truly believe at the price that Anglophile will be, now third off the layoff, should appreciate the Keeneland turf. I don't think this horse like Gulfstream whatsoever. I think this horse, as long as it can find the trip, should be right there. Obviously, Brian Lynch has put this horse in big races after big races. So I'm going to take a shot in here and hope that, this third off the layoff will work. But obviously, we'll be coming from off the pace. I'm not sure what you guys think of the 7, but you could think I'm crazy and I've had too many beers tonight. But hey.
No, I mean, he makes a ton of sense. Maybe a little slow, but not based on time form. And if you go to time form here, I mean, 123, 124, limited liability is 124. Anglophile's at a 121, and that's not even that long ago. That's at Kentucky Downs, even last time with a 119. So he's right up to it. And if he's going to be 15-1, I think that's definitely at least worth a look, at least for underneath, if not on the win end as you have, Pat. Just a matter of, again, he's going to be pretty far back as he always is in these types of races. But this is exactly what this horse wants to do, is go long on the turf, and really interesting that Keeneland's never been tested for Anglophile, so it'll be interesting to see how he takes to it. I went with Rebel Red, guys, and again, everyone, Cherie DeVoe, Kyle's picking Cherie DeVoe again. One, I will say yes to that, but two, Jose Ortiz hops on this horse instead of Miss the Cut, who also is the Cherie DeVoe that I have in second. That race 2 back against Integration and limited liability. Granted, that was the one that we were talking about with limited, or no, that was one of the runs we were talking about with limited liability. He ran a huge race up to the pace. They went pretty quick for the Aqueduct turf course towards the winter months. Just faded back to by 2 lengths. If he sits where I think he's going to sit, which my hope is like that Saratoga N1X, somewhere mid-pack or in the pocket, the 3 horse in this race, Dean Martini's going to go to the lead, and the number 11 in this race, I'd rather be Blessed. That's the other horse that's going to go to the lead. If Rebel Red can sit somewhere towards that pocket, this horse makes all the sense in the world. I mean, that 98 is right up there with limited liability in terms of numbers. And if he's going to have the run on a horse like limited liability, or at least right next to him, would I rather have, 6-5, 7-5, 8-5 on limited liability, or 6-1, 7-1 on a horse like Rebel Red? And I would definitely take the latter. Lemon Drop Kid Mare out of Frankel. This horse has all the breeding in the world to get this type of distance. And the only time this horse has been over 1.1 miles is that really good run, top buyer against Integration and limited liability. So I'm willing to give this horse a chance at 8-1. Charlie, obviously you are as well.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. And quite honestly, I don't think there's a chance in hell you get 8-1. I have a feeling that Rebel Red's going to end up taking a lot of money in golf as, second, third choice. But no, I think everything you said makes sense. I completely agree. I don't know if you touched on this, but also second off the layoff. So should take another step forward. I think is more dangerous at these farther speeds. Obviously, I love me a closer. So getting to, watch her in the past in that Keeneland race where she flew up and then went by open lengths. I'm sure you had her on that day. I remember I did. And, that was the day where closers it was also playing to. But I think also, like you said, she's shown as she's stretched out that she can take to it and show this different side to her. And I think I think the crucial part is just where she sits relative to limited liability. Because I think if she sits next to or in front of, I think she's incredibly dangerous. I think if she sits too far back, it'll be tough. But I also just trust Cherie and Jose to know better than to let limited liability get the jump on them. So I absolutely think this one makes sense. And yeah, if you're trying to get a better price, I would absolutely rather take a shot at 8-1 on this one. Even though I have limited liability on top, I wouldn't want to touch anyone in pretty much any of these kinds of races 8-5. And then moving into the 9, obviously you guys can have because we all have this horse somewhere. Absolutely fits. Didn't really do anything wrong last time. Just quite honestly, doesn't have any early speed. And I know it shouldn't seem like a big difference, but did have the slight cutback from 1.5 miles to 1 3/8 miles. But when you look at this horse's efforts, it just seems like he wants every bit of that 1.5 miles. Obviously ran a Keeneland in the Elkhorn Grade 2 and ran a really nice second to Silverknot, who obviously was an incredible horse at this kind of distance and level. And I think it's just another one that fits. I just think the concern is just going to be how far back she is. And also, obviously, Johnny V has not had the best meet. I think 0-for-26 is probably not how he wanted to start it. But yeah, I think certainly his numbers and fits. But if I had to pick one or the other and which would I think will be a shorter price, I think all of that would point toward the one, but still could fit here.
No, I mean, I don't know how you felt, Pat. I think he easily fits in this race. And it's just a matter of what type. I mean, he's going to sit close as well. Running at Santa Anita, people also love to write these types of horses off when they come to Keeneland. I loved this horse last time, that time at the Elkhorn. Obviously, Silver Knot was a low price that day, was going to win most likely, but those numbers fit. And just like actually, I missed this on Rebel Red. Second off the layoff again for this one. Granted, Rebel Red's coming back at 5. This horse is coming back at 6. But still, second off the layoff can easily get back to those 9,800 buyers.
Yeah, for sure. And I the last race obviously, did come in 6, but was coming on late. So I do think there's going to be more here when Missed the Cut. And I honestly, Kyle, I know you have the one on top. I'd prefer this one over the one in here.
I tell you what, Jose has always been Cherie's number one guy. No matter what, always rides her top mountain. The fact that he takes the one here, granted, he has ridden the one 5 out of the last 6 times and has never ridden the 9. So that is also something to note. But Cherie's going to put him on her best horse, at least in her mind. But now you could argue the other Cherie might be, and I Missed the Cut makes a ton of sense in here, but I am going with the number 1, Rebel Red, second off the layoff. I'm going 1-9-6. Charlie's going 6-1-9. Pat's going 7-9-6 in the Grade 2 Elkhorn Stakes. And Howard brings up a good point. You can make the argument Missed the Cut is the horse to beat, but yeah, there's no way you're getting 6-1 on that horse. And you're probably getting more like 9-2, 5-1 on Rebel Red, and that horse is probably going to be your second choice in that race, being the number 9, Missed the Cut. Guys, moving into the other part of the co-feature on Saturday, the Grade 3 Ben Ali Stakes going long on the dirt, 1 3/16, 350,000 on the line, and this is the smallest field of the day, drawing a field of 7, as these long distance dirt races usually don't draw too many. But the morning line favorite is 5-2, and it's number 6, Duke of Love, the Ontario bred for Johnny V, and Josie Carroll at 5-2. As I said, Uno Mas Bourbon, your second choice at 7-2, Brian Hernandez and Ian Wilkes, and your third choice being the number 4, Time for Trouble, Junior Alvarado and Jeff Hiles at 4-1. Guys, bringing up our top picks, going with 3 different horses again, and Patrick also going a little bit off the beaten path, as am I, with the number 5, Paroli, Florent Giroux, and Michael McCarthy bringing over here. I'm going to let you talk first on this one, but this is one coming over from Turfway, didn't run too well, but getting back to the surface, this horse most likely is fond of.
Yeah, I think Paroli, last out, that was not good. There was nothing there. I had to deal with trouble and then kind of faded out of it, obviously being 23 lengths out. But two back, I thought ran really big considering, the trip. And then, it's going to come in here, after being on a little bit of a layoff. Should improve for McCarthy here. The one thing, I do question in this spot is the pace. who is the two? We know the two is going to go. Who else is going to go? I'm hoping, honestly, it is Paroli, because the two could get loose. The two is very fast. I don't know what you guys thought about this, the pace in here. If you took that into account with who you guys have, obviously having, you, Kyle, you having the one, but I took into account that I think the 5 probably will be forwardly placed.
And he has before. I mean, you could go back to that Keeneland last year, a mile and an eighth, and was very forwardly placed in one going away. I definitely took it into account, but I'll get to my pick in a second. Charlie, you're going with the number 7, Uno Mas Bourbon, a horse that's going to come back, come from at least a little bit out of it. With a colder pace, though, you'd imagine he'd be a little bit closer. Hasn't necessarily tried over a mile and an eighth yet, but all of his mile and an eighth races have been pretty decent.
Yeah, and the way I honestly see it is I was just looking for a horse with upside. I think even though this is a small field, this is a really tough race to figure out, and I don't think there's anyone you can clearly trust. So I'd rather look for upside than maybe horses that have back numbers that are regressing. The way I see it is, you look at the progress this horse made in, mid-2024, and even ran a really nice effort in the Grade 2 Fayette, running with that 86, which at the time was a career best buyer here, so clearly likes it at Keeneland. Then, tried to make a big step up at 46-1 and still ran a nice fourth in the Clark against, some really nice horses like Rattle and Roll. And then comes back against Knightsbridge at GP off, first off the layoff and runs again a career buyer. So I just see a horse that's stretching out that I think will actually show maybe a little more speed than they're giving credit to because of the stretch out. Is a younger horse, and in every start is getting better and better, and is second off the layoff. Again, here, I just think this is one that's going to be overlooked. I think I'll get a square price. And again, for a race where I don't think there really is anyone you can trust, even though it's a small field and it, feels pretty open, I'm just looking for upside here. And I just think there's a lot to like with this 7. Oh, you're on mute.
I was freaking sniffling. I completely agree with you. I think this horse is a ton. It's just a matter of the pace scenario, and I just don't know if this horse will have enough coming down the lane late. But I really like Uno Mas Bourbon in this race as well. But as go from really like to love, I love this horse in this spot. San Siro, Brendan Walsh, Edgar Morales, coming off of a career best race, obviously in an optional claiming N2X, but absolutely flies down the lane. Then comes back in the New Orleans Classic. I love the shot they take, but look who he lost to. Touch Upon a Star, Hall of Fame. What would Sierra Leone be in this race if they, obviously they wouldn't be running this. Or no, they could be running this for him, but what would Sierra Leone be in this race if they ran 3 to 5? Obviously, he's the Breeders' Cup Classic champion.
I'd say shorter. I'd say 1
But
to 5.
what would Hall of Fame be in this race? Stuff like that now comes back into this race here. Going to sit close to the pace. If the 2 does get loose, San Siro is going to be in a position to be able to catch him late. And if he can go back and improve off that 97 buyer, maybe even just run it again, I feel like this horse makes a whole ton of sense in this race. Granted, going to have to take to this competition as he didn't last time, but I also love that this horse is tested over 1.25 miles. He ran it last year, September 26, 2024 at Churchill Downs in an N1X, but did it pass that test with flying colors, and that race came back to be pretty good. Native Shaman came back to run an 85 and win. Granted, that was on the turf. Winston Wolf came back out of that race to win at Delta Downs, running an 83 buyer. And there's a couple other 73s in there as well. So the race, for most part, stayed together. I like that, like I said, I love that he's tested already around this type of distance. And if he's going to be close to what's going to be a cold pace, which leaves a big part of maybe Uno Mas Bourbon cannot get there, I feel like San Siro just sits in that perfect position to be able to take advantage of it late. So my money will definitely be on San Siro, and especially if you're going to give me 9-2 in this spot. Patrick, you don't have San Siro anywhere. However, you have Duke of Love as another horse I want to talk about quick, and then Charlie, basically just talk about every horse. I'll let you talk about the 4 as well to close out the co-feature. Duke of Love, my racehorse. This horse is going to be bet just based off that alone. Josie Carroll hasn't had the best start. However, she has taken some big shots in these races at Keeneland so far. This will be second off a very, very long layoff for Duke of Love.
Yeah, you nailed my angle there. And obviously the negative is my racehorse. I mean, this horse probably will be the favorite, as pointed out in the chat. But I do think this horse is pretty talented. Let's not kid ourselves here. This horse last summer was doing pretty well. So I'm hoping this horse can get back in a groove. Duke of Love in here and should be sitting, in that second tier of horses. And maybe Johnny V can get off the schneid, as I like to say, and get a winner because he, let's just say, he's been struggling at the meet, as Charlie pointed out with the stat.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a little bit of an understatement. Of course, he's an absolute living legend, but not the best way to start the Keeneland meet. And this Keeneland meet's not very long, so you want to get the skunk off the boat per se sooner rather than later. So, Pat, I completely agree. This horse is definitely talented, but where has this horse been? And the fact that he comes back in 7 furlongs last time, definitely not what this horse wants to do. So you can write that one off. Running now to a mile and 3/16, much more suited to what this horse wants to do. Just a matter of what is that layoff going to look like now, facing a lot better competition than he did last time out. But I think that he definitely makes a ton of sense and needs to be at least respected. Charlie, last race we'll talk about, then we'll move to the last race. Time for trouble. Jeff Hiles, Junior Alvarado. You're getting 4-1 right now on the morning line. Going to have to improve on numbers compared to others in this field, but at least underneath, worth a look.
Yeah, would be shocked if this horse is 4-1. I'm guessing this one will end up going off as like 4th or 5th choice and probably float up to 6, 7, 8-1. That being said, is proven at the distance, has some nice efforts in New York going this far. Also, is just running, some graded sticks that are tougher than this competition. I think he definitely can at least get up for a piece because even if there's not a lot of pace, a lot of these are trying this distance for the first time and might just tire, so he could just go by to get up for a piece. But yeah, this horse is a complete underlay, and I just want to say for the 1, everything you said, Kyle, I agree with. And I was really torn between the 1 and 7 for who to put on top, so I'm glad we're kind of on the same page here for a race that I thought was pretty open. I just thought, again, could sit close to that 2. And then, Patrick, I like that you at least still have the 2 and 3rd because I kind of like how you're going with the reverse angle of me with the 4, where because there isn't pace, maybe that one just hangs on at a price, for 3rd.
Yeah, the reverse angle of all of us because none of us have the 5. I have the 6 and 3rd, or the 2 anywhere. So Pat's going completely against us. We'll obviously see who's right come Saturday. But it's actually, even though it's a 7-horse field, someone said it in the chat. It's the smallest field, hardest race for me. It's definitely a tough one, depending on who you're going to go with.
Pretty tough races in the sequence.
And there is, and that's why we love Keeneland, ladies and gentlemen. But Ben Ali, it's a pretty good rendition of this grade 3. I'm going 1-7-6. Charlie's going 7-1-4. Pat's going at 5-6-2 in the Ben Ali. Guys, before we move on to the last race, if you guys are enjoying what you guys are watching, whether you're watching live or as a replay, please come over here to YouTube, or if you're already watching on YouTube, please smash the like button. We would greatly appreciate it because, again, not only does it show us that you guys are enjoying the podcast and content we're pushing out there to you, but also it pushes these videos out into YouTube to hopefully bring people to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel to help us grow and become, like I said, we love what we do, and the fact that we get to do this every single week is absolutely fantastic and can't do it without you guys. So, again, if you guys are enjoying it, please hit the like button. Guys, moving on to race number 11. It's a mile and the 16th, 120,000 N1X. On the turf, draws a full field of 12 with 4 also eligibles, as at this, especially this time of year, you're going to get that at these long distance turf races, especially at the N1X level. And as I show the field and bring up our picks for the last race of this late pick 5, gentlemen, this is what I like to see. All going with the number 8, then Junior Alvarado, Philip Antonacci at 7-2. That's actually your morning line favorite. A lot of people don't know, but I handicap without morning lines, I'd say probably 90-95% of the time. I thought this horse might have been the morning line favorite, might be vying for that, but to have that at least a little bit, I thought the Ward was definitely going to be the morning line favorite in here, knowing how he takes money and probably could end up being the favorite. But yeah, then is the 7-2 morning line favorite. The second choice I aforementioned was Ciro de Marzio, Jesus Christ. I just disgraced my entire ancestry with that one. Mike Smith, Wesley Ward at 4-1. Third choice, the number 7, Rothschild, Johnny V, James Toner at 9-2. 2. Guys, we all are going with him. Charlie, I'll let you talk first. Pat, I'll let you go next. Look, makes a ton of sense in this race. I believe it's second off the layoff as well. Or no, it's not. It's going to be third off the layoff for Antonacci and off the trainer stitch as well. But he's done nothing but run well since coming back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is kind of taking, the reverse angle of earlier where I was saying, these Gulfstream horses have been really hit or miss, and you just got to take a stand if it's a hit or a miss. And yeah, I'm saying this one's a complete hit. I forgot what the name of the horse was. It was the 2 that I read was aboard in a race. I think that was the same kind of level and distance, and just got hammered like a sure thing and ran off the screen. And I was wrong about because I didn't know what to make of. I am very confident then. I agree with you. I didn't really pay attention to morning lines. I know we had them when you sent them to us, but to be honest, I'm so used to us not having them that it's not even something I really think about. I just handicap the way I normally would. This one is incredibly impressive. Came back off a very long layoff to break the maiden at Gulfstream. And I understand, it was maiden 43,000, but, wasn't the favorite. There were some other nice horses like Duration in that race that were pretty hyped up and just ran off the screen and won comfortably and looked to have plenty left over. And then came back and got a tough trip last time. Not really anything, through Junior's fault, just hesitated the break, got caught, why didn't really have anywhere to go. And then also just had no pace to run into in the first place, which I don't think will be as much of a problem this time. I think consider nice stalk and trip if the horse does break, which should happen, is working very forwardly. He'll be in a great spot, is lightly raced. I just think, third off the left, there's just so many things to love. This is, for me, this would be, especially if I get at least, 3-1, this would be out of the sequence my unreasonable wager. I love this horse. We'll get into best bets later. I am all over then in this race.
The irresponsible wager of the week rears its head again. Pat, of course, you have this horse on top as well. Like Charlie mentioned, what else I wanted to touch on was there was going 111-4 and 48-1 in a Gulfstream Park turf race is definitely not going fast whatsoever. As I show the time form, there's definitely going to be pace in this race. The 11 and the 12 from the outside, but the 4 loves to be up close as well. So should be a little bit more pace injected here for them in this race.
Yeah, Charlie nailed everything I wanted to say. Trainer Phil Antonacci is not bringing horses to Keeneland without intent, during this season. So I think this horse is going to have to get the right trip. Like Irad gave that horse on Sunday, sticking along the rail and then, veering out in the stretch. But this horse has been working well too. So I'm happy all you guys are on this 8. I thought I was going to get a little cute here, but obviously this is, it's out of the box here. Like to say.
Getting cute I didn't think, like I said, 7-2. Did not think this horse was
I was not
there.
prepared for that. I didn't see that. I didn't notice that either.
But Pat, 7. Speaking of 7, Rothschild is the horse you have in third or second. A lot of us, the other one, Kyle, Charlie, we both have the horse in third. You have the horse in second. Definitely makes a ton of sense. Second off the layoff for James Toner.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I thought that race off the layoff was not bad.
No,
I thought ran pretty big. Was in between horses around the first and second turn and along the backstretch, and then just kept going with it. Ended up losing by a neck to I think that was Clever Mischief. And who got a perfect trip. So I think this horse is going to improve again. We'll have to show the added distance will be good, but I think Rothschild is right there too.
I couldn't agree with you more. Obviously, Gulfstream Park turf course hasn't done the best over here, and especially also coming from West Coast as well. You could make a bunch of arguments there as well. Charlie, you're going with the Ward horse in second. Mike Smith hops aboard, which is an interesting revelation here. This is his only mount of the day, I believe. So obviously Mike Smith basically in semi-retirement at this point, but comes out of the woodwork whenever someone needs a mount, i.e. Rodriguez. So it'll be interesting to see how this horse runs, but if this horse gets any type of setup like he has the past 2, definitely makes sense.
Yeah, should sit a nice stalk and trip. Obviously has to navigate the 12 hole, has 2 nice efforts. Has that, of course, not what you expect, which is why I'm keen in on this horse and is one I definitely use. Has that freakish Wesley Ward-esque bullet work that you want to see if he believes in a horse with that 59-2. So that tells you everything you need to know about it. This one's ready to go. First of 27 works that day. I think he absolutely fits. I just think the question is, where is this horse going to be second off the layoff? Should make a ton of sense, but what's the trip going to be? How is this horse going to handle the pace? Because, again, I know it's not going to be a red hot pace, but there definitely will be a decent amount. And also just being blunt, I know Mike Smith rode the last 2 times, but I think I would have been a little more inclined to take a chance if he got a different jockey. Now, granted, I don't think this was like nobody wanted to ride this horse. I think lots of jockeys would have taken the chance. I just think, Mike rode the horse twice and he's a veteran. So Wesley just, tried to do the right thing. But also I do know people in the chat have pointed this out as well. The fact that he is, flying out and taking this mountain, it's not like this is a featured stakes race or anything, does speak intent. And this horse makes a lot of sense. And also, I don't know if we pointed this out, but all three turf races in the late pick 5 are part of the turf pick 3. So this also closes out the turf pick 3, not just the late pick 5. So this is one I would definitely be using on my.
Is that in your best bets?
No, it is not. I have a best bet in this race, but it is not that horse. But I think that one makes sense.
I had 2 of them last weekend. You think he's giving away what he's gonna hit? Come on,
he was.
now.
Usually Charlie's a little loud about things, but he was silent. I think
little?
you got to go that route, Charlie. Just be silent but deadly. Just come up to us in the last leg and tell us what you have alive. And
are you kidding me? When the horse won the last maiden race on Sunday, I feel like I could have been halfway across the property and heard him screaming that horse home. But look, man, hey, if you're hitting bets, you're hitting bets. Can't say anything to a man that's winning. English Tunnel's the last one I'll talk about, guys. Wayne Catalano, Ben Curtis takes the mount here. Got a perfect trip last time, however, ran like he should have, was fantastic. This was going to be 4th off the layoff now. Kitten's Joy Mare, English Channel, tons of long turf breeding here, and took the step up that he needed to last time. Again, going to be his first time facing winners here, but if he continue to improve off that 85, this horse makes a ton of sense, at least underneath, if not on the win end. And like I said, it's not, horses don't get good trips out of, good horses make good trips. And if this horse from the 2-hole can sit in a type of pocket spot, I think would be a little wrong to completely exclude him from any type of your bets. I'm going 8-2-7. Charlie's going 8-12-7. Pat's going 8-7-2. Guys, moving in to best bets here, and I will let Charlie go first just because I have his name listed out first. You mentioned a little bit of it already, Charlie, but race number 8, exacta 5 over 6-8. That's just a touch. Throwing out Skinner in that race and going with Stretch Ride and Gould's Gold, and a race number 11, a win on number 8 then.
Yeah, look, I love that, and hopefully with my strategies on the 2 turf pick 3s I had last time, it ends up working where, I play obviously my main press-up ticket where I have a single or 2 and then have my backups. Then it'll absolutely be a horse I'll just straight up bet to win if I get at least 3-1 as an unreasonable wager. My turf pick 3s on my press-up will be a single, but I do think there's others to worry about. And then, at race 8, we already touched on this. No disrespect to Skinner at all. I think you both would agree with me as 2 guys who like Skinner a lot. That's going to be the exacta that gets pounded. So if you're really trying to create value with just a touch, you probably want to look elsewhere unless you're really that sold on Skinner. And since I'm not 100% sold on Skinner, I'm going to try to hope the pace situation works against him. And then I can end up getting just a touch over the 6 or 8, which, will probably end up being, 3rd and 4th or 4th and 5th or 3rd and 5th choices. Those exactas will pay nice where I don't have to make too big of an investment to get a nice return. And obviously I'll be touching those kind of like Kyle always talks about with his doubles, but with exactas.
Yeah, no, and like I said, you talked about Van a lot. You'll see in my best bets as well that might come through. Again, good luck with your best bets, Charlie. Pat, going to you next. An exacta 5 over 9. Look, people are giving you free money, Pat. You're going to take it, going just a touch over Skinner. And then you talked about your long shot of the day in Anglophile. So you're going to play that in race number 10.
Yeah, I just thought, the races that we're covering, those turf races are pretty tough. So with just a touch and Skinner, I'm going to try and I don't know what you guys think the odds will be on that exact. I'm hoping to get 4-1.
Hey, if it's 4-1, you might see me there, Pat. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that could be crazy. I don't know what you guys think of that.
No, I'd say probably 3-1, 4-1. I think that's fair.
I agree.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to get that there in race 8, and then Anglophile win place. 15-1 morning line. I think will be a little bit lower than that, but hey, you never know. Is a deserving, longer shot. But yeah, I'm gonna see. Kyle, you pointed it out. I have been following this horse, and I do like to bet this horse quite often, and it has not gone too well. But I do think this could sit up well.
The Charlie way of betting. We all suffer to it at some point. I might be able to do it with Rebel Red. So look, Pat, we all like I said, we all succumb to the Charlie syndrome at some point. But good luck on Saturday, Pat. I'm going with two horses, and I don't usually do this. For those that have been following me at AP Roscoe K, if you're not on Twitter, trying to reach 1,000 followers, by the way. I've been playing Keeneland every single day, and what I've been doing is I've been taking two horses that I've wanted to play, whether they're around doubles, win bets, anything like that, and I keep track of my ROI every single day. I was a nose away from having 2 for 2 today, as I mentioned at the start of the show. Sadly, it was playing a little bit aqueducty today, a little inside, a little towards the front. But San Siro and Then are the two horses I talked about and probably talked about at length the most about in this podcast. Love San Siro, especially if the 2 does get loose. He's going to be right in behind that horse and should be able to go by at the top of the stretch. Charlie talked about it at length with Then. I echo every single sentiment that he has said, going to be in front of a lot of late running closers. And if he gets the jump on those horses, he's going to be live. And if will it be lost on me if I could play a double with these, maybe even a pick 3 with Rebel Red? There's so many different ways you can play these two horses. Going to definitely be playing a win bet on each of them, a double between them, and then maybe, a little dabble in the pick 3. Pick 4s, pick 5s, you guys know that you will not see me there, but pick 3s, I can definitely dabble in. But guys, viewership has been fantastic, and of course, you guys know I always love covering this track, so thank you guys all so much for watching. We really, really appreciate it again, because without you guys, we would not have a show. But tomorrow, guys, Picks and Ponies covering Oaklawn Handicap Day. So please be there at 8 p.m. Eastern. And of course, next Monday for the Derby Fantasy Draft for your chance to win a free bet on this year's Kentucky Derby. For my co-hosts, Charlie Freeman and Patrick Council, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 128 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering Keeneland Saturday for April 19th for Elkhorn Stakes Day and Ben Ali Stakes Day. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.